So good morning, happy Sunday. Let me get out of my own thoughts, my own head, my own way, and the only way to do that is just to start speaking God's word. So if you have not been following me for the last month or so, good news. I'm going to catch you all up right now with a short recap, as I told you I was going to do probably every Sunday. So here's what we have learned over the course of a month. Your past does not disqualify you from God's future. So stop giving him excuses and start giving him your obedience. Your limitations and your excuses have already been taken into account when you were called. So there is nothing that you are going to be able to say to the Lord that is going to make him say, I didn't think about that. Let me readjust my will and have it match your stupidity. That's not how that works. It's not how that works. And so again, here's the lesson. Stop bringing God your excuses and start bringing him your obedience. One little thing that we learned last week that I liked is your age doesn't even disqualify you from God's service. As we learned last week that Moses was the ripe age of 83, 84, when God called him back out of the wilderness and put him back into Egypt to stand in front of Pharaoh and proclaim his people to be let go. So age is not going to be a reason that God says, I guess I need to find someone else. So, past, excuses, age, if you are asking or begging God to find someone else, I am up here this morning saying, tough. He's not going to. When he asks you to do something, that something is reserved just for you. Next thing we learned was this, and again, these are all applicable lessons as we have looked at the journey the Israelites are being pulled through. We looked at as Moses proclaimed, hey, Pharaoh, let my people go. Instead of letting the people go, we learned that Pharaoh doubled down on his harshness and his requirement of work. And so I said, sometimes things get worse before they get better. And if things sometimes get worse before they get better, how are you supposed to cope or deal with that? And I put down 3 steps, 3 reminders. His ways are higher than our ways. His plans are always going to be good. Now again, where we have a problem with that statement, his plans are good, is good according to who? Good according to God or good according to me? And those 2 things can look very differently, especially if it is my flesh that is leading me. Because as my flesh would be leading me, that also means my sight would be leading me. And by sight, nothing from God is going to look good or easy. Because if it was easy, you would not learn anything, and there would be no opportunity for you to grow. So if his plans are always good and his ways are always higher, it boils down to one statement that you need to make and one statement that you need to hold firmly to. The question you need to ask yourself is, do I trust God? And more times than not, if you are having a lack of faith, a lack of belief, it is because you do not trust God. Sometimes it's okay to go to him and say, God, I'm having an issue. I'm having an issue trusting you. I'm having an issue with my faith. Could you help strengthen that? Now again, if you're going to mutter those words to him, please know that he's not going to strengthen your faith with a cake that he baked for you, sent it to your house and just said, congratulations, you asked for this, here you go. No, he will give you the instructions to go bake your own cake, and you will have to follow what he has asked you to do in order to obtain the good thing that he has promised to come. So trust God. The reality is this: stop trying to figure everything out. He already has. And so when we try to then figure everything out, A, you're already doing a job that's already been done. But B, what you are bringing on yourself will not be peace, joy, happiness. You will be bringing upon yourself worry, angst, fear. Trust God. Stop trying to figure everything out. And then last week we came to, I had to summarize a lot of chapters. And I do hope that you guys did your homework as I encouraged you to go back and read probably 6 or 7 chapters worth. As I couldn't sit up here and read every word, but it is important for you to read every word, meditate on every word, look at every chapter, look at all of the events that are going on, and you would come away with one awesome and wondrous conclusion. The God you serve is mighty. And the God you serve is able to do things far beyond your comprehension, as he systematically destroyed one of the world's greatest known superpowers of that time, Egypt. Not only economically did he destroy them, but he destroyed them with every plague. He knocked down every one of their deities, where he was the only one standing. The only one coming to the last of the plagues, where I said, here is the introduction to the Passover lamb. I'm not going to stand up here in front of you and tell you 10 facts about the Passover lamb. His name is Jesus, and if you would like to know more about those, then I would suggest that you open your Bible and you start learning what the Passover lamb means and what it means to us. But here's the culmination or the exclamation point from last Sunday. Did it matter on who was on the inside of the house? They didn't say that. There was only one stipulation that the angel of the Lord was looking for: the blood. And what we said was, in the very same way that the angel of the Lord was looking for the blood that was painted on the outside, he is looking for the blood that would be painted on the inside of every single one of us. And it is only by the blood that you have right standing, just as it was only by the blood anybody would have escaped their firstborn being taken. So that was a big kind of portion. And again, I don't want to downplay the miracles. I don't want to downplay the plagues. I want you guys to go read more about them on your own. And then I want you to understand that those very plagues are going to come back to those with disbelief in the end times. Frightening things. Frightening things to come, but fear not, you have a reason to not be afraid of what is to come. Looking at those wondrous miracles and those displays of power beyond our understanding. Again, what would have been our understanding would be, I can do that too. As we saw that the magicians could do that too. And then all of a sudden, the Lord was doing things that could not be duplicated. And so, understanding blown. Here's the last point I want to make when it comes to the plagues and who he is. God says he is, and God says he will. So how he is going to be and how he is going to get it done is not have anything to do with us, but everything to do with him. And when we put the ball back into his court, again, guess what is secure? His will. We can't mess that up. So there's our recap. Now I think I'm in the flow of some things. I don't know what yet, but we're going to find out. Here's something I wanted to say about Bible study this week. And so here's my plug for Bible study. I believe we'll be down here this Thursday at 6:30. If that day changes, check Facebook or talk to Karen. There is an app out there, Slack, that people are still communicating on. So there are ways for you to get announcements. But we will be down here this Thursday at 6:30. There was my plug to get to this scripture. We rolled across this on Thursday night. 2 Peter chapter 3 says, "Dear friends, this is now my second letter to you. I have written both of them as reminders to stimulate you to wholesome thinking." And I sat there and I got to think about that for a couple days before I had to get up here on Sunday to do what? Share God's word with you. Takes a lot of pressure off of me when it's my job just to simply remind you of what Scripture has already told you. And if it was good enough for Peter to pen a second letter saying, "Hey, just reminding you of the things that I already wrote you. I'm not writing you anything new really in this letter either. The whole goal is just to get you to read the words on this letter and for those words to point you to Jesus," i.e., Jesus is more wholesome thinking that Peter is talking about. He's trying to stimulate your mind to wholesome thinking. Where does your mind go when you think of wholesome thinking? It should go to Jesus. Because then when you put your mind on Jesus, guess what comes? All the attributes that come along with him. So you start thinking about Jesus, then you'll start thinking about love. You'll start thinking about hope. You'll start thinking about endurance. You'll start thinking about perseverance. You'll start thinking about joy. Those are what it means to think about wholesome thinking. When you are putting those at the forefront of your mind, you are putting Jesus at the forefront of your mind. Guess what is not at the forefront of your mind? Your complaints, yourself, and your lack of faith and belief in what God is telling you is possible. So ultimately, Peter's here and he's reminding us. And what is he reminding us of? This is what I came away. Again, if you don't know, there is no new prophetic words coming. That's another way of what Peter is saying. If you're expecting to read this letter and you're expecting me to unlock this new revelation, it's not happening. It's not happening. The only thing that is new every day is God's mercy. And that's something that we can hold on to. You want something new every day? Go tap into his mercy. But you are not going to find a new prophetic message about his word every single morning. His word has never changed. It will never change. And there is nothing new coming. Revelation has closed that. So ultimately then, what am I getting up here and doing? And what's my job? My job is just to remind you. My job is just to stimulate your mind into wholesome thinking. Which brings me to John 14:6. And this is the statement that Jesus makes. After this, they really wanted to kill him. Not that they didn't already want to kill him. But this is what I am reminding you of. He says, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me." You guys know the next event in our Exodus story, right? What is the first thing that Jesus is when he says, "I am the way"? Not hard for me to stop and think. They don't call Jesus the waymaker for no reason whatsoever. He's not looking at himself saying, "Hey, I'm the way, and I'm going to give you no proof of what way I am." The biggest proof that we have is his word. And we get to go learn about how Jesus is the way maker then, which means Jesus is the way maker today, which means that any issue that you have in the future, Jesus will also make a way for you then. Without further ado, let's get back into our story, Exodus chapter 13. We're going to hop right into 17, so if you have not read all the way up to Exodus 13, 17, that would be all of the chapters and verses that I would recommend you spend some time with this week. But ultimately, again, what you would need to know is by miraculous works, the Lord had led the people out of Egypt. Pharaoh became so distraught that he finally got to the point where instead of saying, okay, go, no, I changed my mind, the Lord brought him to a point where there was no changing his mind. He took his first son from him, and the first son of all those that were in the land of Egypt, there was mass wailing going across this land. And that brought Pharaoh to the point of extreme frustration. Get out of here. I don't want to see any of you anymore. And if you find some of those more intricate details in there before they go, all of Egypt was so distraught by the Israelites that they started giving them cattle, jewelry, gold, and just started filling up their carts saying, hey, take it and leave. It will be better for you to take everything that I have and get away from me than for you to have remained here and have me lose everything anyways, because that's really the reality of where all of this was going. As if they hadn't already lost everything. But somehow they had some more stuff to just hand over to the Israelites, and the Israelites go. Verse 17, when Pharaoh let the people go, God did not lead them on the road through the Philistine country, though that was shorter. For God said if they face war, they might change their minds and return to Egypt. So God led the people around by the desert road to the Red Sea. The Israelites went up out of Egypt ready for battle. Moses took the bones of Joseph with him because Joseph had made the Israelites swear an oath. He had said, God will surely come to your aid, and then you must carry my bones up with you from this place. After leaving Succoth, they camped at Etham on the edge of the desert. By the day, the Lord went ahead of them in a pillar of cloud to guide them on their way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light, so that they could travel by day or night. Neither the pillar of cloud by day nor the pillar of fire by night left its place in front of the people. Then the Lord said to Moses, tell the Israelites to turn back and camp near Pi-haroth, between Migdol and the sea. They are to encamp by the sea directly opposite Baal-Zephon. Pharaoh will think the Israelites are wandering around the land in confusion, hemmed in by the desert. And I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and he will pursue them. But I will gain glory for myself through Pharaoh and all his army, and the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord. So the Israelites did this. When the king of Egypt was told that the people had fled, Pharaoh and his officials changed their minds about them and said, what have we done? We have let the Israelites go and have lost their services. So he had his chariot made ready and took his army with him. He took 600 of the best chariots along with all the other chariots of Egypt with officers over all of them. The Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, so that he pursued the Israelites who were marching out boldly. The Egyptians, all Pharaoh's horses and chariots, horsemen and troops, pursued the Israelites, and overtook them as they camped by the sea near Pi Hahiroth, opposite Baal-zephon. So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to unpack some of those verses that we just read. And if you didn't chuckle in the first verse, then you weren't paying attention. When Pharaoh let the people go, God did not lead them on the road through the Philistine country, though that was shorter. The Lord intentionally led them on a longer, more challenging path. In order to do what? To save them from the thing they could not see. And so again, if that is not evidence, if that is not spurring you, is that if not bringing to your recollection, you live by faith, not by sight. Here is one of those examples if the Israelites would have acted by sight. That road right there out of Egypt looks easier. They'd be gone. They would have been wiped out. And if they wouldn't have been wiped out, Scripture says this: they would have been so afraid that they would have ran back to Egypt. So again, the easiest path is not always the best path. God knows the limits of your faith, and He will not test you beyond what you can bear. Does that make sense? So God knew the limits of the Israelite faith. And if He would have said, hey, the first thing I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you march out, and I'm going to have you go take the shorter route and go start fighting those giants. No, He said, you got to learn how to trust me. You have to learn how to depend on me. You're going to have to learn how to navigate by faith, not by what you see. And so I need you to go this way. And what I liked about what we read is, what did Pharaoh look at? Pharaoh, so by messengers, got wind that those idiot Israelites that you just released are seeming to they don't know where they're going. They're lost. And not only are they lost, but they've actually pinned themselves up to a place that they will not be able to get through if we pursue them. And so Pharaoh pursues them. Remember this: God will often provide a safer route than the easier route. But the safer route will come with its unique set of challenges. And those unique set of challenges would be, you will become fully dependent on who He is and what He says He is going to do. Amen? So let's continue with our story. Israelites are camped near the sea. Pharaoh approaches in verse 10, and the Israelites looked up. And there were the Egyptians marching after them. They were terrified and cried out to the Lord. And they said to Moses, was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you brought us to the desert to die? What have you done to us by bringing us out of Egypt? Didn't we say to you in Egypt, leave us alone, let us serve the Egyptians? It would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the desert. Moses answered the people, do not be afraid. Stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptians you see today, you will never see again. Verse 14, the Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Verse 15, then the Lord said to Moses, why are you crying out to me? Tell the Israelites to move on. Raise your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea to divide the waters so that the Israelites can go through the sea on dry ground. I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians so that they will go in after them, and I will gain glory through Pharaoh and all his army, through his chariots and his horsemen. The Egyptians will know that I am the Lord when I gain glory through Pharaoh, his chariots, and his horsemen. First thing, again, that sticks out to me as the Israelites come up with their fear. Do you catch, or did you catch in the beginning of chapter 14, the Lord had already told them what he was going to do. And at the end of verse 4, the Israelites didn't seem to have a problem with what the Lord said he was going to do. So then my question would be, how then did they look up, move from we have no problem with what's going on here into straight fear, straight panic? Guess what they did? They took their eyes off of the one who was standing in front of them. They took their eyes off the one who by day was leading them in a cloud and by night was leading them by fire. They took their eyes off of the one that as they came up to the sea, he removed himself from the front and he planted himself at the back of their line for one purpose only: divine protection. Scripture in the next couple verses will give this intricate detail that for a day and night, the Egyptians couldn't get to the Israelites, even though there was really nothing physically blocking them from other than the Lord's presence, who was standing at the back of their line protecting them. God did not lead you out of slavery to kill you in the desert. Now, with that being said, your lack of faith will find a sandy grave. But that would be on your lack of faith, not God's ability to deliver you out of slavery and lead you into an abundant life. So they have a problem now, and they are overcome with fear. Moses answers the people, don't be afraid. Do you answer yourself that way sometimes? Do you have somebody that comes into your life when something seems to be spiraling out of control and the only message they give you, don't be afraid? And you walk away encouraged because you are reminded. Why should I not be afraid? Scripture says that we should not be afraid according to 2 Timothy chapter 1 verse 7 because of this. There is a spirit that God gave you that dwells inside of you that is not a spirit of timidness or fear, but it gives you power, love, and self-discipline. Scripture in Romans chapter 8 also identifies this. Here's a reason why you should never be afraid. The same Spirit that raised Christ from the dead resides in you. So if that Spirit can do the impossible, if God can do the impossible, and that Spirit that did the impossible dwells in you, what exactly are you afraid of? You need somebody to remind you. As Peter reminds young believers, hey, wait a minute, I'm not saying anything new. Guys, I'm not saying anything new today. But there are people that are gripped in fear, that have let their fear be in the driver's seat, and they have put their faith not only in the back seat, but they put it in the trunk. And it's time to let that out of the trunk. It's time to get rid of the fear. It's time to understand again that the Spirit that the Lord did give you was the Spirit that moves you away from fear. And it moves you towards Him. Moses then says one of those famous verses, one of these things, Exodus 14:14. If this is not a memory verse, I am encouraging you all to make it a memory verse. The Lord will fight for you. You only need to be still. So again, all Moses is doing is just reminding the Israelites that this has nothing to do with them in the first place. And how short term of a memory do you really have that just a few days ago, the Lord, the same Lord that has called you out of slavery, out of darkness, that guy just destroyed Egypt. And now you're afraid of that country that he just systematically destroyed in 10 plagues? Why wasn't somebody out there at the front of the line saying, wait a minute, Egypt just got decimated. Not by anything we did, but by everything that he did. And if he has led us to this very spot, then we're either going through this or we're going through that. Because there were only two options. They were either going to have to turn around and face an army that they were not equipped or prepared to fight, or they were going to have to trust God that God led them to a place that only God would be able to make a way for them. The Lord will fight for you. You only need to be still. Encourages us to surrender our anxieties and worries. It encourages us to stop trying to control every situation. And it encourages us to trust that God is actively working on your behalf. That is what it means when it says the Lord will fight for you. You only need to be still. It does not mean, well, God's going to do it, so what's God going to do when you give up on him? Stand firm. And that is what Moses tells them to do in Exodus chapter 14. It says, do not be afraid. And the very next command, stand firm. He did not tell the Israelites to go attack. He did not tell the Israelites to take an attacking position. He just simply said, there's a line here. I've already drawn the line when I went from in front of you and I went to the rear of your ranks and stood right in front of the Egyptian army where they could not cross over. I drew that line, and all I'm asking you to do is just go walk up to it and stand there. Confident that the Lord is working on your behalf. Are you confident that he is working for you? So it encourages us to just surrender. That is what it means when it says the Lord will fight for you. You only need to be still. Surrender to him. So I said this, after this great motivational speech, because that is what Moses did. Sometimes you need to be motivated. Sometimes you need to be reminded. And what's the best motivation? Direct your attention right to the Lord. I'm going to just remind you of who he is and why you're not supposed to be afraid. And all of a sudden, the very next paragraph, and this is what I think is funny, in verse 15, the Lord said to Moses, why are you crying out to me? And it was like, did we miss something here? Or did the most humble man in the Bible leave out a detail or two? That perhaps he went to his prayer closet. Perhaps he said some things publicly to the Israelites that he himself needed reassurance over. And so he went to the Lord, and the Lord says, hey man, wait a minute. Why are you crying out to me? Didn't you just tell them what they need to do? Guess what? Moses' instructions wouldn't have been any different. As he told the Israelites, do not be afraid, guess what the Lord would have been saying to Moses? Don't be afraid. I said I was going to be with you. Not only did I say I was going to be with you, but let's take a look at some of the evidence here. Let's take a look at some of what I have already done for you. And when you start looking at the evidence of what God has done in your life, that encourages you and gives you hope that He's going to continue to do things in your life. Amen? So he releases some of his worries to the Lord. And this is what he was met with. He was met with some instructions. And I love that little tidbit of information. Because again, when you go to the Lord and you go to Him in a panic and you go to Him in a worry, He's not just going to say, it's gone. He's going to say, hey, here's a couple instructions. Want to know how to feel better? Start praising me. You want to know what praise will lead to? You're going to start praying. And when you start praying and you pray faithfully and without stopping, mountains will start to move. But before you even get there, you have to understand again, what did he say? He gave him instructions as if Moses was already supposed to know that. That's how I read that, and that's how I do read that. Let's just look at it again. He's saying, Moses, why are you crying out to me? Tell the Israelites to move. And it's like, duh. You got a problem with where you're at? Move. And you should move with intent that you are moving where the Lord has directed your movements to go. Sometimes you don't know. What are you met with? A closed door. That's what it looks like sometimes to walk by faith. You are not always going to be certain or sure. But the Lord will make it certain and sure with either resistance or free movement. But either way, you have to move. Either way, you have to trust. Either way, you aren't going to be able to sit there on that line and say, but I'm afraid. Because when you start saying, I'm afraid, guess what? You're not standing at that line anymore. You won't stand at the line when you're afraid. You'll start to shrink back. And you'll start to go behind the people that aren't afraid. And you'll start looking for them, to them, as your protection. I'm here to say you only have one, and his name is Jesus. And that is the only person that will never fail you. If you come to me for reassurance, I will do my best to encourage you. I will do my best to uplift you. But there is a chance that I'm going to fail you, and I'm going to let you down. Jesus will never fail you, and he will never let you down. If you are in a season of fear, you need that fear rebuked. And again, the only way you rebuke fear is by knowledge of who he is and the authority and the power that he has given us. He has not led us to this sea and not led us to a place where he is going to stop working. But not only that, he also will equip you as you have been given this journey to keep going, as he equipped the Israelites as they left Egypt. As you're about to see that he probably is going to equip the Israelites into an army with the shields and the swords that come from Pharaoh and his chariots. Why are you coming to me? Just go do what I tell you to do. And he comes up with this idea. Stretch your arm out and tell these waters to move. And what you would then know, I'm going to summarize the rest of this chapter. I think I'm going to summarize the rest of this chapter. We'll see. But you would then see what? On the right, a wall. On the left, a wall. What they walked through, dry ground. Those three things do not make sense. Those three things are the very things that somebody would pick up this Bible and say, no, that never happened. Let me debunk that. And then they go look at the Red Sea and they find chariot wheels at the bottom of it and they say, can't really explain how that got there. Well, I can. I can explain it. Where there was no way, Jesus made a way. And when the Israelites were being chased, Jesus closed that way off for the enemy because he is not going to lead you somewhere just to be captured by the enemy. So he took care of it. As every Israelite crossed over from this side to the other, walked right through the Red Sea, it then says Pharaoh and the Egyptians chased them right into the Red Sea, where it was dry ground. It then says the Lord kind of made their wagon wheels, their chariot wheels, just get stuck right there. No Israelite got stuck walking through. But all of a sudden now there's this halt in the middle of the sea. And then what comes next? Israel's enemy was destroyed right in front of their eyes without them lifting a single hand. The only thing they needed to lift was their belief and their faith in who God was and what he said he was going to do, he's going to do. Here's the reality, and this is where we started. This is why it's easy for me to just full circle. What's this all about? This is all about reminding you that Jesus is the waymaker. Stop looking at someone else as if they are going to be able to make a way for you. They won't. And if they do make a way for you, it is not the way. And so you need to be very careful when you start leading down someone else's way, because guess what? It looks a little bit easier on the eyes. The reality is this: there is one voice you should be following. There is one voice that says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And when you break those three things down, it all points to himself. So stop acting again as if he hasn't already set you free, as if he isn't already leading you, as if he hasn't led you to what would be perceived to be a roadblock. And as we get to that roadblock, we shrink back. We go to him with our fear, with our anxiety, and with our worries, instead of, you led me here for a reason. And because you have made a way for me before, you must be making a way for me now. And if my sight can't see it, guess what? I'm going to shut it off. And I will walk by faith, because it will be by faith that you will be able to advance through anything that God has asked you to do. If you are trying to advance by sight, you are not taking the way. You're taking your way. And your way most likely will leave you ensnared and entrapped in some pretty sticky situations where you might have to call somebody. And you might have to say, hey, I've been so exasperated by what's going on. It feels like the Lord doesn't listen to me. It feels like he called me out of darkness and then he led me to this place where I'm just going to die right here. And you're going to need somebody to come alongside of you and say, wait a minute. There is not one thing you said that was scriptural. Not one thing. So let's shut that down and let's replace the lies with the word. It's the only way. Again, some of us are acting like there is a different way outside of his word. There isn't. There isn't. So he didn't set you free to have you die in the desert. He didn't set you free to split the Red Sea and have that Red Sea crash over on top of you. So he didn't call you out to drown you in deep waters. And here's the reality. If he made a way for the Israelites then, whatever issue you are facing, whatever issue I am facing this morning, his promise is he's going to make a way for you today. Why? My favorite scripture out of all of them. Because he is the same. Yesterday. And today. And forever. That is Hebrews chapter 13, verse 7. So don't act. Don't even bring that to him as if he was going to do something for someone else that he will not do for you. That would be playing favorites. That would be going against his own word, because his word says he does not play favorites. His word says, I am the way. So for all those that come to him for a way, what should you expect? The way. And he won't change. There is comfort in knowing that Jesus Christ will not change. Because as you change, as your emotions change, as you allow things to get in the way, his word comes alongside of us and says, I'm the same. I didn't change. Here is an opportunity for repentance. Here's an opportunity for humility to come back to me, to stand firm, and to be led by the word of the Lord. So just as the Israelites came to a place where they were 100% totally reliant on the Lord, guess what? He's leading you to a place. He's leading me to a place where we are 100% reliant on the Lord. There is no other way. And what he was going to do, he said he was going to do. And Scripture also tells us this, and we need to be confident in this. This is a Scripture that had been placed on my heart at the beginning of the week. Listen to this. He who began a good work in you will carry it out to completion. You don't have to carry that out to completion. You just have to follow the waymaker. That is good news. So just as the Israelites were unable to carry out the completion of their own miracles, of their own waymaking, of their own freedom, you are unable to do the same. You can't manufacture these things. You can only pray and believe that he is doing what he said he's going to do. And what he said he was going to do, he said, I began doing it, so if I started it, I'm going to finish it. Do you believe him? Do you trust God? Those are the questions that you will find yourself coming back to as they are proposed to you. Simply put, he's not going to do half of his work. That was something I just sat down and thought. It's ridiculous for us to think that God is going to do half of the work, as if he's lazy, or if he didn't figure out the other half. But we place this expectation on him. Wait a minute, I don't see the whole work, so that must mean it's not there. Is that walking by faith? Of course it isn't. So get out of his way. Cast your fears onto him. Trust that the man who died for you also gives you the opportunity to live for him. Does that make sense? So again, as we start now looking at salvation, could you make your own way? You could not. There is absolutely nothing you contribute to salvation. Absolutely nothing. You have been saved by grace and by grace alone. It has everything to do with who he is. It has everything to do with who he said he is. And it has everything to do with him completing the work that he started. Today is our reminder. Here's our last closing scripture. To fix our eyes on Jesus. There is no other way through this world. From our salvation to spending eternity worshiping him, he is the only way when there was no way. He is the only truth in a world full of lies. He is the only source of life, as everything else will leave you thirsty for more. Jesus is your everything. And when he makes a way, walk and praise him. Amen? Heavenly Father, we thank you for the reminder that it is because of who you are, because of what you have done, and because what you will continue to do in every one of our lives. We thank you for your faithfulness. We thank you, Lord, for the mighty blood of Jesus Christ. We thank you for the work that has been started and the work that will come to completion in Jesus' mighty name. Amen.